John, back to the league this week. And Sligo, tough game at home Friday night.
Absolutely, every game is tough. Any team that has come down all year to us have tried to put up to us. So from our point of view, we know how important the game is. We're in the last, the run-in, as I keep saying, where we need to turn performances into wins, and Sligo have always been tough opponents. Earlier in the season, Jimmy scored late to beat them 1-0, and their away form is very, very good. They have an incredible away form compared to their home form, which is unusual, but that's the way it is. So maybe away from home, the pressure is off them from their passionate crowd, but they've done very well away from home. So we're well aware of that. Yeah.
I know we're at the business end of the season in the league and the cup, obviously, but how difficult? It's very stop-start, like the cup last week, then the league, then the cup the week after. Is that hard is it frustrating for yourself to handle, or you have 10 changes on the team in the last 2 rounds of the cup, and then the league guys, as we could call them, are coming back in?
Yeah, no, not at all. Actually, it's worked out quite well, because once you stay in the cup, it's good because you're playing every week. If you get knocked out of the cup, it might be more difficult, but from our own point of view, it's been fine, because the whole with Europe and Roseburg was intense and hectic, and it was great that we had the cup, because it gave opportunities to the lads, and actually, if anything, it's been good because it's refreshed the whole squad. So it just means that between now and the end of the season, hopefully we can keep playing every weekend. So from my own point of view, actually it's worked out quite well. But in the last couple of years, the fact that we got the cup finalists worked out quite well also. But I think maybe if you got knocked out in the first round, it would be more difficult. So certainly from where we are, we're certainly we're happy the way things have gone, because it's refreshed the squad and given guys a rest, and the guys have come in, have got a number of games. So overall, it's been very good that way.
Injuries, or Cullum and Beats?
Yeah, well, Cullum is still out, and that's something we need to monitor between now and the end of the season. Hopefully, we might get him back before the end of the season, but it's a tricky one. Beats is back doing light training the last couple of days. He's due to take part on Thursday, so we'll wait and see how he is close to the game. Colin McCarthy's the only other one, because he's had a bit of a reaction, so he won't be involved at the weekend. But other than that, I think everyone else should be okay.
Is it a case, John, at this stage of the season, that you can't drop any points?
Well, if you're hoping to retain the league, it is, Martin, absolutely. I suppose, I think we're a point away from qualifying from Europe, which would be another incredible achievement. That it would be 5 years in a row, which I think sometimes has been missed and overseen from where we were at and to where we are now. But at the same time, there's no doubt from our position that we need to keep the pressure on. We need to win every game and see where it gets it to. But certainly, if we don't and we drop points, then your chance of retaining the league are gone. So we certainly must keep maintaining the points.
And is fatigue becoming a factor now? I mean, or sort of was it good to sort of be able to change all the team on 10 of the team on last weekend?
Yeah, absolutely not. I suppose we pride ourselves with our Kevin Tatton, our strength and conditioning guy, on our fitness, and they're professional players, and your season is 8.5-9 months, and so they're in tremendous condition. A few knocks, I think that they developed over the last month. With the cup games, the way it's fallen has helped the other guys to get game time. So actually, if anything, it's getting probably more of a headache for choosing a team, because not everyone is available, which is good. So from that point of view, actually the freshness in the squad, actually the way it's worked out in the last 2 or 3 weeks is quite good, and we're looking forward to the run.
John, are Sligo maybe a good opponent to be playing as the kind of the end of the season years, given that they kind of look to be safe now from relegation fears and mightn't have as much to play for?
I'd say the exact opposite. I think when the pressure has been on them this year, it's probably the area, particularly in their home form, where they've struggled. Now it's a scenario where they're out of the cup, they're safe from relegation, and it's one of those scenarios where you can come down to Cork and have a cut off it. I think the most important thing from our own point of view is we must play the way we can play, in terms of the high energy, the high passing, quick passing. That's what we must do. So it's really about ourselves making sure we give our performance. Sligo from now to the end of the season will be exceptionally dangerous because they have a talented team, very talented players. Obviously, their main playmaker McCabe in the middle of the park. They've brought Lee Lynch in, who we know is quite a good player. Plus Caulfield, who's been around as and they've built a solid defence with McLean and Callum McFadden, and obviously Drennan is coming up top and Twardek on the wing, another new player. So, they're a professional club. Like Sligo Rovers are, an incredible club. I know a lot about them. Really the only sport in the city or town, and passionate fans. But the demands up there are huge as well, and maybe that's why a lot of this year their home form hasn't been good because the pressure from the stands, and we know that over the last number of years here. The pressures are huge, and that's why the players have to stand up and be counted, and that's what they've done. And likewise, it does take time, and certainly it's ironic that Sligo's away form is so good. So, if we're, as I keep saying, if we're not at our best, and if we don't perform to our best, you'll drop points, and we can't afford that. So we need to make sure that that a lot of the team that would play Friday night didn't play last weekend. So it's been a period of 10 days to 2 weeks, which has given them time to recover and prepare properly. So we need to be at our best on Friday night.
And in the two cup games, you played Josh on the right wing with Ronan through the middle.
Yeah.
Is Josh on the right something we might see more of? Is it kind of an option or exploring?
Well, it's different because Josh has pace, and he's got a few goals coming in from that side, and he can offer us a slightly different option. I suppose Ronan is more in the sort of in the mould that he likes to drop in, hold the ball up so he can play off him and brings the team more into play, which is what we've tried to do and what we were certainly used to for last year and the year before. So from that point of view, that's where that's come from. Josh still is always a very good guy coming in off the bench because he's been very effective, So yeah, it's something we've looked at, and we work at in training with him because I think no different than Carol Shepherd, front players have to be adaptable. Because whether you're playing 3 up or 2 up or what way, they need to be adaptable and interchange. And we've saw Carol Shepherd, who came to us as strictly as a centre forward. We've seen over the last 4 years he's been phenomenal playing from either the right or left side, and it's probably his better position now. So from that point of view, we'd hope that maybe Josh might offer something in that field as well.
You're not going to go to Oriel Park tonight?
No, we will have someone up there. Yeah, just tonight. It doesn't. Normally I go to a lot of these games, but I'm not going to go tonight because we'll have someone there, and I have a fair idea how both teams play as well.
John, just your reaction to getting on for Town in the quarter final of the cup. Obviously, his former City star, Neil Finn, in charge there.
Yeah.
His first full season, they look much improved. Lanford probably to the side he would have played 12 months ago.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting because that first division this year in the league has been very, very competitive, and as we predicted, there would be a lot of teams competing for the top 4 positions, and Lanford are one of those, and they're still waiting with a shout of getting into the playoffs. And Neil has built a very good side, but we went there last year and won a very good run, and we gave a really good performance up there in the quarter final, which we had to do. So he's a very young, energetic team, very similar team. Most of the players that were there from last year, he's brought in a couple of new lads like McLeod and these guys who've in the forward areas given them more options. So it's a cup game. They're at home, they must be thrilled having us going up there, because obviously it's going to be their biggest crowd of the season, and they know that that if they can create that shock during the semi-final. But likewise, we're in a position where basically we know how difficult the tie is, but at the same time, we're going up there. We've won the cup for the last 2 years, and we know what we'll have to do. But at the same time, it's I think they'll be delighted with the draw. Personally, I'd have preferred to be at home, but we're away, and we just deal with it next week when it comes around.
And I suppose the game that you have to be at it, and you have to avoid complacency, because you've seen a number of times in the cup in recent weeks, like first division sides they've beaten Premier Division sides. Yeah,
well, what the cup has really shown over the last number of years is that the way it's going is that the Premier teams are dominating, because you would expect that because they're professional teams and have bigger panels. But at the same time, the element of surprise from first division teams can happen, So, and that is. But if you look at the final 8, 6 are our Premier and the 7th UCD are going to win the First Division. So Longford are the only ones that are in that playoff who sort of who shocked Sligo actually, whether they shocked them or not, but they beat them 1-0 in Sligo. So it just shows you what they can do. So as I keep saying, in any sport, if you're not ready, you're not prepared for your game, you can be overturned, and that's the brilliance of it. So from our point of view, my point of view, we must make sure that we're at it, that because it's quarter-final, it's a chance for us to get into a semi-final.
The cup team that you played, that obviously won't be out in the quarter-final.
Sligo this week is a massive match for us, and all our energy this week and our focus on this week's team and getting things right, and we'll deal with next week and who comes through Friday night afterwards. So I suppose from the point of view, Stephen Beattie's been out injured, and hopefully he might come back this weekend, and so from that point of view, Johnny DeLevy thankfully is back in, and so we have a few options, but certainly we're looking no further than Friday night, and then we'll prepare next week for Longford after that.
So can I ask you this then? There's over the last week there's talks apparently that the FAI could bring in a third tier for the League of Ireland in 2020. Do you think possibly, obviously to bridge the gap, that would help in first team and underage football, like with the likes of yourselves, and maybe there could be Munster Senior League, Connacht or Ulster Senior League teams as well? Just do you think, is that something, do you think a third tier, is that something that would work for Irish football?
I didn't hear that, John. I didn't hear that. I don't know how it would work. What teams are they suggesting would be in a third tier? Is it reserve teams or?
I think it could be something maybe like to bridge the gap between like 19s and first team League of Ireland football.
Under 20.
Like an under 20, like maybe like the 8th championship the way it was.
Oh yeah, well certainly there's no doubt. I think a lot of the clubs, and certainly a lot of the Premier clubs, would certainly like to have a reserve league. So whether that's A Championship or under 23, absolutely. So if there was a reserve league, I think we're all crying out for that. There's no doubt about that, because of the bridge the gap, and guys need game time as well. And the way the loan system is over here, it's very difficult, because when you loan someone, you have to loan them for 6 months, and it's difficult, and you can't take them back in between, whereas you can in England. So our regulations here are very strict, and but certainly if there's an under 23 league or an A league coming in, would be fantastic. Not so sure it would really apply to senior league teams, because I don't think there's an appetite in the senior league the way it's gone. I think they're quite happy to play at that level, and the players that are at that level, I think that's where they're at, because I don't think there's senior league teams that really want to go into League of Ireland. If anything, it's probably less, if anything, in terms of the strengthening of the Premier Division, where we need to get to. But in terms of having another 21 or reserve league, absolutely, we'd love that, because it would give our younger players a lot more games, and we could promote much quicker from our 19s as well.
And it would probably help if the fellas out for like long-term injuries and stuff like that.
Well, absolutely, because when you have the likes of Colin Horgan coming back, or you had someone like Harold Morrissey and Colin McCarthy out there for 4 or 5 weeks, if you can give them game time and give them games like that, it does help. There's no doubt about that.